This game against Houston, it means absolutely everything.
Welcome on in, everybody, to the AZ Wildcats podcast, coming to you live from Studio K, presented by our friends over at Circle K. I am Damon Dog. That is Kevin Thomas, and as I said, we are the AZ Wildcats podcast, coming to you live from PHNX HQ Trace here in lovely downtown Phoenix. We, of course, have some new people becoming members. I don't believe those are ours, Kevin. I think that those might be filthy scum devils, but that's okay, Kevin, because it honestly just kind of brings up a good topic to start the show off. We need more members. We need more members. We need more supporters, club members. And as you can see there, it is for the real ones. And it is true sicko level stuff. Essentially, it is just an extra way to help support us. It's an extra way to, just drop a little $5. You get a free super chat in the process. You get to use some really cool emojis and make this chat even more fun than it already is. I know on the Sun Devil show, they basically are, just like galvanizing the troops every day, getting people going. And so I'd love to see some people just dropping a bunch of Wilburs in the chat right now, Kevin. If you wouldn't mind doing so, and
you already
showing
know
the people
I'm on
exactly what that looks like. I know my guy Max is always dropping, Deborah as well. So guys, if you're not a supporter member yet, costs $5, costs a cup of coffee. Do so, please. Helps us out. But Kevin, we do have a lot of sports to talk today as well, including what could be, and I know it feels like we keep saying this week in and week out, but it almost is the case in the Big 12 conference with the amount of parity in this conference and really just how pivotal each game feels. Feels like this one might be the biggest game of Arizona's season on Saturday.
I said it on the post game after BYU, but I think it's a side effect of Brent Brennan ball, and I don't mean that as like a super critical thing, but I think anytime as a fan base you have a situation where I would say, what percentage would you put it at, Damon? 60%, 70% of the Arizona fan base is highly skeptical that Brent Brennan is the guy for this job right now.
I'd say it's higher than that personally.
Either way,
I think
right?
that even the people that are, the most, and I think that we fall into this category of like wait and see, and we want things to be successful, but we're not necessarily all that confident. And I think that that's where the majority of Arizona fans, if you truly ask them, that's where they would fall, is in the category of, we hope we're wrong. We want to see Brent Brennan be successful. But there are things like what happened on Saturday that just lead you to believe that maybe it's not in the cards for Brent Brennan at Arizona. But that doesn't mean that it's all over either.
And I think, to answer the question that you asked me to start it with, I think it's a side effect of Brent Brennan ball because fans are doing a temperature check. We're doing a temperature check literally every post game because you don't have that certainty, right? If you look at other programs across the country, if you look at other programs in this conference, there are fan bases that you look at the schedule and say, well, I know we can beat that team. I know we will beat that team because that's what we do. I know we're not going to lose in that spot. There are all these situational things that you have confidence in with your coaching staff or with your head coach or with your roster as a whole, right? But Arizona right now, there's a level of inconsistency to certain phases of the game that I think lead fans to say, well, last week they didn't prove everything that we wanted them to prove. Can it be this week, right? I think you go into that Iowa State game, right? You're like, how much can they prove in this game? They could prove everything in this game, and they don't really do that, right? Especially on the offensive side of the ball, especially in the special teams area of things. You go into the BYU matchup after bouncing back against Oklahoma State, but still not proving much because that's Oklahoma State. So it doesn't really mean everything, but that BYU matchup means everything because you lost that Iowa State matchup. And then you lose the BYU matchup in the fashion that you did, meaning you absolutely cannot lose this Houston game if you have a chance of the fans still being confident that a bowl is what Arizona is going to reach this year and that once they do reach that bowl, they can win the bowl. And I think that is kind of where we're at, right? Every game feels like it's the biggest game of the year because there's so much riding on these matchups, right? In terms of where Arizona goes as a program. We talked about the side effects of the loss to BYU as a program, like potentially that having ripple effects throughout the next year and a half here under Brent Brennan. And it feels like this game against Houston is massive, but not because it's Houston, but rather if you go beat Houston, now you can restart this momentum and you can inch one game closer and be one game away from bowl eligibility with 5 games remaining after the Houston game. So it feels like this game means everything, and that is because there's so much riding on it from a postseason perspective for Arizona. And I'm not talking about college football playoff. I'm just talking about getting to any sort of postseason play at all. It feels like if you cannot beat Houston, it has me worried about the Kansases, the Baylors, the Cincinnatis, the ASUs rounding out your schedule. It does mean everything. I'm not saying that it's like if you lose this game, light the program on fire. I'm not saying that. But if you do lose this game, I do not have confidence that you're certain to go bowling. The way right now, I still feel like Arizona will go bowling. If they lose that game, my confidence will be shaken quite heavily.
But that's the thing, Kevin, is they very well could lose that game.
Correct.
It's a road game, and it's against a team that is, as things currently stand, considered to be better than Arizona. And that's not, maybe that's unfair. I think these teams are probably about as neck and neck as you could pretty much get, both in year 2 of a new head coach. Both, kind of haven't played, the best schedule when it comes to their wins necessarily, but when Arizona matched up against 2 really good teams, and those are, happen to be the 2 losses. So you can make the argument that seeing a competent football team could be your 3rd loss of the season. And then you would be batting 1,000 in terms of teams that are competent to losses on the season for Brent Brennan. And I guess you could say Kansas State is now competent, but when we got them, it felt like they were in complete and utter disarray. But Kevin, I did drop a projected wins thing in our Slack. If you could just grab that and pull that on screen for us, because I just want to convey that, even though you're right, and I think that when you look at this conference and you say, who on this schedule is beatable, and which of these games feel like the most winnable games for Arizona, you're going to look at the Houston game and say 100% that feels like one of the most winnable games on the schedule. But when you look at the actual standings in the conference, you sit there and you go, man, really, I think almost everybody's looking at Arizona and saying, that's our winnable game. Houston fans are saying we need to beat Arizona. You know what I mean? Because we are one of the weaker teams on their schedule as things currently constituted. So here are the projected Big 12 standings that, you can see here. Texas Tech at the top, Utah rising, fraudulent BYU right there in 3rd place. ASU took a big hit on the weekend, obviously, with Jeff Sims, Mr. Sunday guy Sims himself in there. But yeah, Arizona, drops a spot below Kansas State, Kevin, who they beat. And now they find themselves 2 spots behind Houston. And so it's like the gap between Houston and Arizona, while it's not that big, Houston does have a decently significant advantage in terms of win projections for the rest of the season. And so, yeah, I just think that it goes to show that while maybe we're looking at this game and thinking to ourselves, you got to beat Houston if you want to have a successful end of the season, I don't think that that's as easy of a thing as maybe some more casual Arizona fans would expect. I think that the more locked in Arizona fans are no, we got a dogfight in for us basically every Saturday in this conference, unless you're playing Oklahoma State. But other than that, there's not really any free wins. And Houston's a good football team.
Houston is a good football team, and as we look at the projected overall wins that you pulled up for us here, you will see that Arizona is averaging out there at 6.6 right now, standing at 4-2 with a 1% chance. There's a chance that you can get to that 10 wins, Damon.
But Kevin, what was I guess I know that Kelly Ford, who we got these rankings from, do not do this, but I couldn't help when looking at these, just what would this look like if Arizona beat BYU on Saturday? You'd be 5-1. You'd probably be, I would say, either at Houston or right below Houston, right at that 7.7 number.
Yeah.
You'd have over a 50% chance of getting 7 wins or getting 8 wins, most likely.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think what happens is you probably swap that 54% to 7, on the 7 category. You probably put that 54 in 8, and then you have 23 for 7. So you probably do end up right at 7.7 where Houston's at.
Yeah, and meanwhile, 6 wins is probably at 97% versus at 82%. And frankly, like, I know that doesn't, like, right now that doesn't seem that crazy, but like 18% is a pretty high percentage of not making a bowl game. That's very realistic. Like, that's not an insignificant percentage. That's almost 20%. It's almost a fifth. So, like, I'm not saying it's all doom and gloom, but this is a massive, massive game on Saturday. To the point of, like, I think it maybe it really could be, because I could see how things spiral out of control after another loss on Saturday. I really could. Like, you lose a heartbreaker that you should have won versus BYU, similar to the Texas Tech game last year. They really would have set you up. And then what happened last year, Kevin? Things just spiraled out of control, particularly road games versus competent opponents. Brent Brennan, we noted this, I believe, on yesterday's show, or maybe it was last week, has one Big 12 road win in his time at Arizona, and it was against the worst Utah team in 2 decades. And that's not to say that the win doesn't count, but it's not like a typical Utah team. If that last year team played this year's Utah team at Rice Eccles, it would have been a 40-point game, and we'd be looking at 0 wins. So it's like, I can't, it's hard for me to go into a road matchup with that record on our head coach's head and feel like I have confidence just flowing through my body of like, man, Arizona's going to get the job done on Saturday. Like, I don't think that you can assume that Arizona is going to win any road game until Brent Brennan proves as such.
The team would disagree, right? And I think
I'm glad they do.
And let me extend an olive branch. Let me do the devil's advocate. I guess, would this be an angel's advocate? Right? Because I guess you are being and it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
anyway,
I'm being the devil.
Yeah, I guess devil's advocate would
bad terminology.
Yeah, see, it doesn't work for this show.
No,
but either way, right? What Brent Brennan did not have last year that he does have this year is a Danny Gonzalez defense that is incredible. Right? It's one of the best in the country. Arizona's defense currently ranks among the top 25 units in the nation in these following categories: total defense ranking 15th, team pass efficiency defense ranking 1st in the entire nation. Turnovers gained, 5th. Interceptions, 6th. Tackles for loss, 8th. Passing yards allowed, 10th. And first downs allowed, 15th. Defense travels and defense wins you games.
It does.
Right? I think that is a huge difference in this conversation. Last year's team, you had so much roster turnover. You had so much expectations based on the Alamo Bowl season. You had Tetero McMillan just literally waiting to get drafted in the top 10 that season. You had a defense full of guys, some half in, some half out. Right? We talked about that in the offseason. This is not that. Right? And I hear you. I think you are correct that you cannot assume that Brent Brennan is going to walk into anybody's trap and take over anybody's trap, because he can't do that. He has not shown that he can do that yet.
The image of Brent Brennan walking into the trap house is
Hey,
crazy.
Fellow kids, what's going on in here? This is my trap. Anyway, but no, this is a different season for Arizona football. I think that while there are huge glaring questions surrounding the head coach and the level to which he can succeed at this program, I think you and I were talking about this pre-show. There's an extent, right? It's not the full extent, but you can rely on these coordinators to get you through conference play in some of these games. I think this Houston game is one where you're going to have to rely on Danny Gonzalez. You're going to have to rely on Seth Dagey to get you through, right? Because I think that those are the 2 biggest differences from last year's team to this year. You have an offensive coordinator that you believe in, despite his I'll say imperfection this season.
Yeah.
He's been very promising, but he has not yet to fully deliver on the bill of goods that, in part, we sold, right, about Seth Dagey.
Well,
in
and
part,
also part of the reason we sold that is because Seth Dagey gets it. And you
Correct.
hear that today in his press conference, and I implore anybody that didn't get to see it to watch it on Arizona's YouTube page, Arizona Athletics YouTube page, because like Kevin and I were discussing it, he just tells you like almost what you want to hear. And that's not to say he's like gaslighting you or like trying to blow smoke up your, what.
He's answering your questions directly.
I think he answers the questions directly, and he faces the music head on as well. Like, he very much takes accountability for things that happen on the football field, the shortfalls of the offense. Like, he'll tell you what the reasoning was behind it, what the thought process was behind it. Like, that kind of stuff, I think, it leads you to believe in a guy a little bit more. And even in moments where you're like, man, Seth Doege wasn't perfect, it's the fact that he knows that he is the one that's wearing that almost as hard as anybody. And to be honest, like what Brent Brennan said in yesterday's press conference, while his messaging and his like media training might need a little bit of work at times, he's right. Like Seth Doege put up 400 yards of offense and 27 points, albeit in double OT, on a top 10 defense in the country, arguably the best defense in all of Power 4. So, I mean, that's not the end of the world. And I agree with you in the sense as well, Kevin, that your defense is your calling card, and that should travel in road games, and you didn't have that last year.
You didn't have a calling card, period, last year, outside of just playing hard on defense.
Outside of T-Mac.
Dwayne Akina getting the guys to play hard. That was the idea. Like,
Tyler Loop and T-Mac were the entire team's identity last. Oh, throw it up to T-Mac, hope he catches it, and then if we get close enough but can't get a touchdown, then we'll just have Tyler Loop kick it from 60.
And then I think the next part of my Angels advocate for what I wanted to get to here for why you should be optimistic that Arizona can pull off this early game road victory over Houston is because the players are thinking differently about these losses than they did last year. Part of the reason why the spiral happened the way that it did last year, Damon, is because guys were not bought in after these losses. You'd lose and you would feel like the world was over because of the way that it looked. Right? It looked really bad last year in losses. And I'm not talking about like heartbreaking, brutal bad. It was bad from the first snap of the game. You knew if you're Arizona, you're losing on the first snap of the game on multiple occasions last year. And I think we've heard coaches and players talk about how like there was nobody taking these losses
happened
harder.
At Iowa State, I will say. That kind of feeling of one snap, game over, did happen in a game this season.
And I
on
think
the road.
It's important to note that because what has the response from players this season been to losses? Although you only had 2, they've been positive, right? It's a bounce back against a lesser team in Oklahoma State. I'm not going to write too much into that. But mentally and vocally, the message is different with this year's team. It does not feel like this uphill battle to get back from a loss. Right? Dalton Johnson's out there talking about how obviously you want to get the win, but we did so much good in that game, and we know we can play ball now, right? Like you go into Iowa State, you get worked the way that you get worked, confidence is going to be shaken. You bounce back against Oklahoma State, you come into the first 3.5 quarters of this BYU matchup, play your ass off, prove to the whole nation that Arizona's defense and some parts of their offense can hang with the top teams in the Big 12. And that, I feel like, has been instilled in the roster. I feel like they're not going to lose that confidence unless, like you said, this does somehow result in multiple losses. I think once you get to that, like if you lose against Houston and then you lose your next one, then we're starting to talk about confidence issues. But right now, all the messages I'm hearing from this team, it feels like they are confident in their abilities and they know that they cannot finish games like they finished against BYU and expect to win. But Seth Doege talked about it. Danny Gonzalez talked about it. Brent Brennan even talked about it. The players talked about it. Seth Doege said he had never had more text messages after a loss from players texting him something along the lines of, hey, coach, I got to be better myself. Let's go kill Houston. No, they didn't say that, but let's go get Houston. Let's go get them out of there. Let's go prove that we're not this team that chokes at the end of games, right? So I think the messaging, I think the attitude, I think the pushback against the loss, completely different from this season to last. Will the results end up being the same? Time will tell, right? But I think right now, what gives me so much confidence that Arizona is going to beat Houston, the defense, the attitude, and the lack of spiraling after a loss, right? It really feels like the players believe this year in a way that we thought they believed last year, but they really didn't. I feel like it's real this year with the players' belief.
Yeah, certainly. If I was in that locker room, they would weed me out and kick me out the door. And
this guy doesn't have red line.
No,
Get him out of there.
Because you're right. Like that kind of negativity, in a way, does infect the rest of the team. So it's good to hear the buy-in is still there, right? Because it shows that all hope is not lost. But I do think that like things could get really bad really quickly here, and it's you are now in a place where you've almost lost all your safety net. Like this really truly Saturday feels like your last safety net.
Yeah,
like if
you have no more
win,
room for error.
All is well.
Saturday, yeah.
All is well in the world. You'll probably be able to get one more win the rest of the season. You have a lot of games against teams that are kind of up in the air, but it'll all will feel decent if you're 5-2 and you beat Houston on Saturday.
And your two losses are two top 25 teams when you played them. And
yeah.
And
if you conversely, if you lose, you're 4-3 and
you played three good teams and
you're staring down. I mean, I just saw it and honestly, I'm kind of jealous. It was a great tweet from them. I just saw it from Barstool, Arizona. They grabbed ESPN and their FPI analytics, Kevin, for the next 3 games. Listen how insane this is. Arizona's percentage chance to win its next 3 games per ESPN. At Houston, 49.6%.
Okay, 50-50.
At Colorado, 49.8%.
Okay, coin flip again.
Versus Kansas.
Can I guess?
49.3%.
Yeah.
So in your next 3 games, and I think most people would look at the schedule and say, those are probably your 3 most winnable games that you have left on the schedule. Because after that, it's Cincinnati, Baylor, ASU. And those are all going to be really difficult games to win. I'm not saying that it's impossible. I think all 3 of those teams are beatable without a question. Especially Baylor, who has just a putrid defense. Seems like they're always in a close game, even if it's against Oklahoma State somehow. It's decently close. Like that game is totally winnable. Not saying it's not, but you don't leave yourself any room for error at all. That's 3 50-50 matchups in your next 3 games. And dude, like if Brent Brennan coaches the way that he did on Saturday, we're going to lose all 3 of those games because you can't win these games against the other team when the margin for error is so slim. And also your head coach is like hurting you and seemingly like I don't even like not there. They're present in the moment during the game. The Chris Hunter has twice as many catches as he actually does thing from Iowa State. The not knowing that they just converted a first down with 9.5 yards in the game on the line, and no one on your staff figures it out. Like that kind of stuff is just unacceptable, and that's really what I'm going to be having a microscope on, Fairall or not, the rest of the season, because we experienced it last year, and I said clean slate, we're good. I don't care about last year anymore. It's going to hurt forever, but I won't hold it against you. Like, let's go clean slate. And this season has been better, but I'm still seeing cracks of those moments where it's like your head coach is not helping you win. He's hurting you. And it can't happen. It can't happen ever. Or else it's just like he's not the right guy, right? So that's where I'm at. Like I have now, I don't want people to get this misconstrued because I feel like I say things like, I'm not confident in Brent Brennan, or I feel like I'm seeing some cracks of last season, which very clearly and evidently shows that I am not all the way out and that I am not like just being a gas bag. I'm giving room for benefit of the doubt and whatnot. But then I have people that are on our postgame show on Saturday being like, trying to fire the coach is crazy. Who said that you were firing the coach? Certainly wasn't me. And it's like there's 2 different things to say. I'm calling out the coach and expecting, honestly, like you could say greatness. How about not hurting the team?
How about goodness?
Yeah. How about mediocrity? And versus, like a guy that is up there and just being completely unfair, which I don't think I'm being. So like I appreciate, Kevin, you being here, given that yin and yang. I think it's great for the podcast. And I think this is truly who we are as individuals. Like we would be having this conversation off air.
We were, in fact, having this conversation off air.
And we were yesterday. Like we these are genuine feelings between me and Kevin. But, I think that we are truly on the same page at the end of the day, which is Saturday wasn't good enough. And you got to go in next Saturday against Houston and really figure some things out. Because as you can see by the different percentages and stuff, like things drastically change if Arizona is to lose this one.
I agree with you. We're going to continue previewing the implications of this Houston matchup and also more specifically how Arizona's defense can try to compromise Connor Wegman. Connor with an ER, by the way. I am learning, I'm today years old when I learned that he had a weird spelling of Connor, but we'll be right back after this quick break here on the AZ Wildcats podcast. Please leave a like and don't go anywhere. But if you do go somewhere, and I've been very consistent on this, you should be going to Zen Leaf Dispensary to load up on all your favorite flowers, edibles, vapes, and more. You have all the different types of weed edible products there at Zen Leaf Dispensary. And if you really want to load up, and I know the economy is tough, and these things can get a little expensive when you go and get multiple items at a time. That's why we got you with promo code ZEN, PHNX, ZEN, PHNX, for 50% off, folks. And it does not have to be your first time purchase of just a one-time purchase. So if you already go to Zen Leaf all the time, you can cash in on that. Because I know when I see an advertisement for a company or a location that I already use, and it's for a first-time user, this usually happens with sports books, and I'm like, oh, I can't get in on this. I already use your product. Well, this is perfect for you if you are a Zen Leaf dispensary lover like myself. Head over there, use code ZEN, PHNX, for 50% off your first order. Don't forget, this is a limited time only promo code, getting you half off of a one-time purchase. Zen Leaf, great weed, great service every single time.
50% off is just an incredible deal, Kevin. I was just driving around Phoenix before, in this early morning. And as I drove right by Zen Leaf, and I was like, would you look at that? Right in the middle, smack dab in the middle of Phoenix, easy for everyone to get to. And as AZ Catch G puts it, I would like to get a cookie recommendation from Brent Brennan, who, of course, was talking about cookies to start his press conference yesterday. I heard Zen Leaf has some pretty fire cookies. And I heard maybe Brent Brennan was partaking. That's why he didn't know that a first down is 10 yards in the fourth quarter. But
he did live in California.
Moving forward, of course, I got to talk to you guys about my friends over at Branded Bills, who of course have BB, of course. BBPHNX is the promo code for you. It's going to get you 15% off your first order over at brandedbills.com. They have the campus collection there. They have sweet lids that you cannot get anywhere else. I, of course, have one on my head right here. I got that state outline one. Kevin, there is a hat right behind me here as well. Nice little bear down. There's just so many great options. They, of course, have this special edition D-backs one that they gave out during the course of D-back season. We love our friends over at Branded Bills for just putting together the best hats in the business, whether it's a trucker fitted beanie, snapback, even a t-shirt. They got you custom fitted with the ultimate custom premium headwear and apparel. And Kevin, they just came out with some new canvas hats.
Oh, you were telling me about these.
I was telling you about those because I'm trying to get some PHNX ones made in the works because I'm trying to highlight those new Branded Bills products that we love so much. And yeah, those canvas hats look pretty sweet. So head on over to brandedbills.com, use our promo code BBPHNX, and get 15% off that first order.
I love our friends over at Branded Bills. I still literally
goated.
This is actually not a joke. I remember the first time I ever put on a Branded Bills hat because it was so light and comfortable. I was like, I haven't had a hat like this before. Got to tap in with Branded Bills. But we are going to tap in with this Houston matchup a little bit further right now. And shout out to everybody in the chat. Please leave a like, subscribe if you want to help me and Damon continue to do this great podcast that we love so much. And we love doing it for you guys. AZ Cats G, shout out to you for your super chat. AZ Cat Dan1 says, good afternoon, everyone. Sorry I'm late. I was looking up a good cookie recipe to send to Brent Brennan. Well, to send to a family member of Brent Brennan. But that is a very funny comment. Thank you to everybody for tuning in, joining the chat every day. Like
even you, John.
Really appreciate it. Yes,
we appreciate you continually coming back and letting us know that the better team won on Saturday, even though I think by all accounts it really was pretty 50-50 and easily could have gone either way. I honestly think if you truly watched that game and thought, man, BYU is so much better, like it's almost a referendum on your ability to understand what you're watching. But BYU seemingly in ASU style, Kenny Dillingham, Sam Levitt style fashion, Kevin, just win every single close game that they play in, no matter what. It's pretty disgusting. The only time that didn't work out for BYU in the last couple years here is when they played ASU and they were 1 yard away from a Hail Mary being completed that would have put them in the Big 12 championship game and, of course, knocked ASU out of it. And in that circumstance, I was Mr. BYU. So we can be friends from time to time. But do you remember that, Kevin?
I do.
Were you watching that?
Probably.
When they rushed the field and then they brought it back and then they tried a Hail Mary and then they caught it, but they were a yard short.
I do remember this.
Oh, devastating.
Wasn't that like
we could have been saved from all the Cam Scattaboo nonsense.
But wasn't that the video that went viral that day of Kenny Dillingham like yelling at the referee all crazy? Was that game?
I think he was yelling at kids, ASU kids, wasn't he? Like telling.
But I think it started with him yelling at the referee that this game should be over. We should be out of here.
Even though there was clearly a second on the
people
clock.
Are storming, and now they're like, "Oh, I want to talk to Dilly," and then he starts yelling at kids to get the hell out of there. But yeah, I do remember that. And I also remember preseason, Damon. Do you remember this? People leaving Genesis Smith out completely of
do.
season previews, and I'm not talking about like Joe Schmo on the internet with like a little Twitter page that just every once in a while throws out a take. I'm talking about like big 4-letter networks that just simply forget that Genesis Smith, one of the best safeties in the country, is on Arizona football.
I mean, what was he rated? A 78 in college football? 26,
76, mid to high 70s.
Like
it's ridiculous.
They considered him to be like a bad starter on a Power 4 team, and it's like Genesis Smith is a National Football League player,
and people are starting to wake up. Damon Mel Kiper tweeted. Well, he didn't tweet this. He posted it, and then our friend Ari Kozlow, shout out to Ari, said Arizona safety Genesis Smith comes in at number 8 on the safety positions for ESPN Mel Kiper. And his 2026 NFL draft positional rankings, as you see, Caleb Downs, one of the best players in America for Ohio State, comes in at number 1. But Genesis Smith down there at number 8, I believe, as I'm double checking right now with my eyes. Yeah, the only player from the Big 12 on the list. The best safety in the Big 12, Damon, is Genesis Smith.
Fact.
People are starting to wake up to it. We knew it was only a matter of time. And I just wanted to interrupt this Houston preview with a little bit of positivity because it's been hard to come by this week for Arizona football fans. But I think we can all take solace in Genesis Smith showing off for the scouts alike, Damon.
I'm laughing, Kevin, because you immediately were like, I'm just trying to bring a little positivity.
It's been hard, bro.
Dude, do you know where I was about to take this thing out of after you brought it back on screen? I was immediately about to go, Genesis Smith, who of course should have won the game with the forced fumble. I know that I am not every Arizona fan. I do feel like that I'm representative of a portion of this fan base's psyche and how we're feeling. I apologize if I'm annoying to some people that are like, holy crap, man, get over it. But my first thought was literally like, and Genesis Smith, of course, should have capped off his best play of the season with a forced fumble against Bear Bachmeier to ice things on Saturday. But of course, that ultimately leads to a BYU first down because who knew the advancement rules were different in college than the NFL? And how could we be so naive? Of course, it was determined that the advancement rules that were going to apply in this game were going to hurt Arizona. But yeah, I can't help myself. I'm stuck
thing.
in this little negative just space, Kevin. And last Saturday's loss has just completely fried my brain of all other substance. It's unbelievable.
I'll say this, like this is another reason why I love basketball so much, Damon, because the games, they just fly. Right, you got one on a Wednesday. Can't wait for it too long. You got another one coming up on Saturday.
That is very true. Like
the football,
immediately, you're 2 days in between your next game, where you're like, especially in the Big 12, especially with this gauntlet schedule, and Sam, we will talk about that here at the end of the show. But like, totally, like you're like, oh, we lost to BYU on a horrible foul call. Yes, John, it was a horrible foul call at the end of the game on Trey Townsend on Richie Saunders. But you sit there and you go, conference tournaments in a week and a half. We got 2 more games between that now and then. Got to win those ones and set yourself up well from a seeding perspective. But like with football, yes, you are led to
get stuck in that spiral.
In it. Also with basketball, I think with losses, like for me at least last year, and I think I said this yesterday, we knew our seeding was screwed up from the beginning with our non-conference slate and how we played. So losses here and there to good teams where you easily could have won didn't feel all that like dooming. Whereas like with this Arizona football team, every win is so damn important to the like ceiling of this season and what this team could be. And it feels like that ceiling was almost like we had 16-foot ceilings in this B. And all of a sudden, for some reason, the city pulled up and they were like, "Man, this doesn't meet our roofing."
Do you have a Brennan
guidelines and
permit?
Regulations.
Do you have a Brennan permit?
You're gonna have to lower these ceilings about 6 feet to 10 feet here. And now I'm like, damn, 10 feet doesn't feel nearly as good as 16 feet. Like seriously.
No, yeah, that's a good comparison for it. The ceiling just got lowered in the initial SketchUp
in the trap house. In Brent Brennan's trap house.
In his bakery, in the Brennan Bakery.
We should have Noah make us a graphic of Brent Brennan's trap house.
What a colossal waste of our guy Noah's time. That would only make you and I ecstatic. But I will say, Damon, I bring up the Genesis Smith thing, yes, to throw a little positivity out there, but also because if you're going to beat Houston, you have to shut down Connor Wegman, right? And what's his name? Sorry, I apologize. I forget if it's Tanner or Tyler. It's Tanner Koziol, the tight end for Houston, who's been very good for them this year in both blocking and receiving. He's their second leading receiver. He's been the safety blanket for Houston all season. Think of like a Romo to Witten or like a Mahomes to Kelsey, or just like your classic quarterback needs that tight end kind of a thing. Koziol has been that for Wegman this year. And I think Arizona's linebackers are going to be challenged in this one, but I think the safeties that do come down, like a Genesis Smith, for example, they're going to have to be loud in this one. I think they will be loud. Because when you look at Arizona's defense, they have been quick to the ball, they have been violent, and for the most part, they have been consistent. They have held opposing offenses out of the end zone in, pause for effect, 18 of 24 non-overtime quarters played. I'll repeat that. They've held opposing offenses out of the end zone in 18 of 24 non-overtime quarters, right? I think Connor Wegman's a very good player. I think Willie Fritz is a ball coach, as our guy Spencer McLaughlin would say. But I also think that Danny Gonzalez has this defense thing figured out, that it travels, and that you have the best safety in the conference in Genesis Smith. And I think that's a huge reason why Arizona can, I'm not going to say will yet until we get to our prediction, spoiler, but can win this game against Houston. Because you do have the dogs in the right areas on defense to come down into the box and make plays, to also chase guys down the field if you need to. Sam Alberts. But yeah.
I'm not reading it.
No. But yeah, they've only allowed 10 touchdowns in regulation in 6 games this season. I'm very confident that Genesis Smith and the DBs in combination with the linebackers can slow down this Houston offense. Damon, how are you feeling about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think Houston is honestly, like, the way in which, I hate to keep pounding this drum, the way in which Arizona is going to lose this game is Willie Fritz just fully outclasses Brent Brennan, in my opinion. I don't think Houston's team is better than Arizona's team. I think our defense is better than their defense, albeit their defense is pretty solid and has performed really well this season. Connor Weigman is good, but he's not really groundbreaking to me, at least. Like,
no, he's good. Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Like, you know, he has 1,200 yards, 8 touchdowns, 2 picks this year, 5 touchdowns on the ground as well, and that goes for something. That shouldn't be discounted. But, you know, like he's averaging 2.8 yards per carry. I know that his dual threat ability has been touted, but that is the yards per carry of someone that is getting sacked a decent amount and isn't running the ball, I guess, by design all that often. Maybe his scampering ability is pretty solid, but it's nothing that, you know, Arizona hasn't seen before, in my opinion, in this conference. So, you know, I'm not overly impressed by Houston's team necessarily. Like, I think that they are good, and they are a team that you're going to have to go and beat. Like, it's another one of those games where it's like BYU, it's like Iowa State. It's like, dude, if you beat yourself, you can lose this game, but like, they're not going to probably just, like, you know, crap down their leg. Like, that's not what I expect out of a well-coached Houston team that has beaten every other team that it's played this season outside of Texas Tech, who is by far the best team in this conference right now. So it's hard to, like, kind of truly judge them on that. I think that this Houston matchup is really interesting for a lot of reasons. But yeah, that how this defense plays against Connor Weigman, because I think if this defense is as good as we believe this defense is, I think that that's advantage Arizona on Saturday. I really do. And like, so maybe this is like kind of a telling moment for this defense in the season, right? Like, if Connor Weigman, of all quarterbacks in the Big 12, is going to go in there and, you know, like, kind of do what Iowa State did on the road again to you, I think that like kind of changes the psyche of how you feel about this defense moving forward. But I do think that this defense is good enough to take it to a guy like Connor Weigman on the road as well. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be an interesting matchup, no doubt about it.
I got 2 questions for you, both of which come from our guy Pigeon in the chat, or our bird, I should say, Pigeon in the chat, who brings up a point of, if U of A plays better than they did against BYU, they will beat Houston, which I think is a, you know, not trying to, you know, poo-poo the comment, but I think that's an obvious statement. I think the question I wanted to pull from that, extract from that, and ask you, Damon, is, don't you think that Arizona playing 3 quarters of the way they did against BYU, 3.5 quarters the way they did against BYU, is good enough to beat a Houston team? Like, I guess my question is, we've already seen Arizona put together games that beat a team like Houston. I believe BYU is better than Houston, right? So I feel like, what about that BYU matchup doesn't give you confidence that Arizona can beat Houston. I understand the ending was really bad, but you're also playing a better team, right? And so I feel like if Arizona can play the same way they did against BYU, I'm confident that Houston will not be in the game at the end the same way BYU was to put you in a position to choke it away. What is your kind of take on that kind of, I guess, thought process I was going through there?
I mean, I hear you, but I think I would go back to what I said earlier in the show of Brent Brennan has one road win in this conference in his 2 years here. And the majority of these games have not even been remotely close. So it's like I almost feel like what happens against BYU at home kind of goes out the door because the team is a different team that shows up on the road versus at home. So it's like if we were playing Houston at home, I'm feeling great. I'm sitting here. I'm going like that. Truly is the differentiator for me. Okay. I'm sitting up here. I'm saying I feel like Arizona's got like a 75-25 chance to win this one on Saturday. I think they're the better team. I think they're more talented. I think they have the home field advantage. But when you flip that, and then I look at the history of Brent Brennan on the road, history shows me that we might field one of the worst games of all time on Saturday. And that would be a disaster, and that's obviously an exaggeration. I don't think we're going to get like blown out or anything, but I do think it's hard when you do get blown out every time you do play on the road to then be like, we're going to win this one. So that's why I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, I feel like early kickoff, East Coast, even though I know it's just Texas. I mean, I feel like the writing's on the wall that this one's going to be really difficult to win.
I hear you on that. I did want to poke your brain on it because I myself hadn't thought too far about it, but Pigeon's comment did make me think about it. And the bird has me thinking because our Pigeon friend says, this is the matchup of two schools distracted by the upcoming basketball season, Damon. Which school is more distracted by their upcoming basketball season? The national runners-up, Houston, or Tommy Lloyd's Arizona fan base? Which one do you think is more distracted fan base-wise by this football matchup?
After last Saturday, us for sure.
It has to be, right?
They won on Saturday, and they have one less loss than we do, and their only loss is to the team that's number one in conference. So I think if we were 5-1 and our one loss was to Texas Tech, you do not want to hear the things that would be said on this program. I'd be talking Big 12 championship paths right now, Kevin. This thumbnail would have had a treasure map on it with Brent Brennan's head and dotted lines all the way to the Big 12 championship. Like that's the difference. So I think for sure us, even though, I do think that maybe traditionally we're a little bit more football oriented than maybe Houston is, but yeah, that's my answer. By the way, I don't know if this is factual or not. I think that, sometimes you look stuff up on AI and it's the worst thing that's ever happened to society. It's just completely blatantly false and untrue. I looked up Brent Brennan's road record at San Jose State, Kevin.
I'm doing it right now through College Football Reference.
So you're going through it. So continue, okay, so we'll check it. I got 8-29.
I'm in year 3 under Brent Brennan, and I just got to his first road win, I think.
I'm at 8-29 with Brent Brennan, according to ChatGPT at San Jose State.
Yeah, so. We're live, so I'm not going to do the full count, but I'm saying that number seems to align with what I'm seeing on College Football Reference in terms of his time at San Jose State. It does not seem like he had a very strong road record at all. Maybe Damon is onto something with this one. Onto something.
As of Javier Morales' September 10th, 2024 article, Kevin, Brent Brennan's road record against Power 5 teams was 1-8. And that was before last season's disaster. So essentially it seems like potentially the worst thing of all time. Yeah. To be honest.
And I feel like
it honestly might not get worse.
Yeah. It kind of feels like, I know that maybe some people might argue like, well, he's at San Jose State. You're playing teams like, and I think if you look at his his literal first 2 road games at San Jose State are Texas and Utah, right? And so that's brutal. But ultimately, there are some winnable road games considering you're not just playing out of conference opponents. You are playing in conference.
Or like his last year at San Jose State, I'm pretty sure he lost to both the USC and Oregon State, who was ranked that year. Like in USC, I believe had Caleb Williams. So it's like, I'm not, it's hard to like really truly judge that and be like, man, how dare you lose on the road? Because a lot of these smaller schools, right? Like when you are playing road games, Kevin, it's because you're playing a bigger school, right? So you're expected to lose. But yeah, that record isn't exactly inspiring when you're looking at it, and it's not like the Arizona one is inspiring either. So it's just it's trending from the San Jose State thing. Like you can look at that and say it hasn't gotten any better when he got more talent at Arizona. So I don't know. We'll do the full-fledged math on that after the show, probably tweet it out on social. But yeah, that's not exactly the most inspiring thing I've ever seen.
Is it time to inspire the people? Can we talk about Arizona basketball to wrap up today's show for the final block, Damon?
We can, Kevin.
Let's hit that.
You've been itching.
Let's hit that after this quick break here on the AZ Wildcats podcast as I hopefully stop itching my neck as I crave Arizona men's basketball. You know what else I crave, Damon? More money in my bank account. And the best way to manage my money is with our friends over at Monarch Money. Because we all know, I think everybody to a T, no matter what stage of life you are in this chat, can agree that managing your money is hard. It's a skill you have to learn. People argue that they don't teach it in the schools enough, right? Well, Monarch Money can help you learn how to manage your funds. I'm talking about a personal CFO, ladies and gentlemen. Does that sound fancy? Does that sound like you're living the high life? It's a couple clicks away with our friends over at monarchmoney.com. I am a Monarch Money user myself. I was showing Damon my phone yesterday, and I don't know if he caught it. I think I was showing him a tweet, but the Monarch Money notification shot down and said, hey, Kevin, you've exceeded your gas budget for this month by X amount. And I was like, oh, hope Damon didn't see that. I'm spending a lot of money on gas this month. But that's the kind of stuff Monarch Money can do for you. It helps you keep track of your money. If you get a new, streaming service subscription that you kind of forgot about, it's going to track that and let you know, hey, we found a new recurring vendor. Is this trustworthy? Can we fix this? Monarch Money is your personal money management tool that is built for people with busy lives. So if you're a student, if you're a professional, everybody's busy. Monarch Money is built for you. Do not leave money on the table. Do not let this financial opportunity slip through your fingertips like Arizona did against BYU. Use code PHNX at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. Not half off a month, not half off 3 months, not half off a quarter of a year, half off your first 12 months, year of Monarch Money services at monarchmoney.com with promo code PHNX.
Love our friends at Monarch Money. They're helping you save, Kevin. It's great at financial advice. And I think I got to start this one off by saying this is unequivocally not financial advice, but it is damn fun because I'm going to Gila River Resorts and Casinos and I'm going to make some money putting it on red, my boy. Of course, I love playing some roulette, maybe a little bit of blackjack, hitting even a couple slots up, Kevin, because Gila River Resorts and Casinos, it's like having Vegas right in your backyard. Except, you know what? The minimums are even more affordable. It's way easier to pocket and to stomach because you're not spending a band when you're going to Gila River Resorts and Casinos. You're having just as good of a time as a Vegas vacation, but you're doing it in the comfort of your own backyard.
It's the best.
It's the best. It's half the price. It's easy to get back home. You don't got to drive through Wickenburg and Kingman. Like, it is unbelievable. Just go to a Gila River Resort and Casino location, of which there are 4, whether it's Wild Horse Pass, my favorite, Lone Butte, V Kiva, or Santan Mountain. Experience the best the Valley has to offer. And do you, Kevin, because they have so many things you can do, not just gamble. You can, of course, hit up their pool. You can go see a concert. You can go get a nice steak dinner. You truly do you at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Check out which location is closest to you because there are locations all throughout the Valley, as I said, on all 4 of the locations. And as I also said, you do you at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Visit playatgila.com for more details.
We are back, and I can get rid of this topic bar talking about this Houston matchup, and we can talk about Arizona men's basketball's current schedule as it is laid out.
I will say, Max, I also like Wickenburg, and the last couple of days I've been defending Wickenburg because I forgot who I was talking about the drive with Vegas with, but they made a comment and I was like, you know what? I actually got a lunch place in Wickenburg. I go to a nice old cowboy saloon. I sit down, I crack a nice cold beer. I get a Sandy and I gear up either to or from my trip back from Vegas or as I'm going into Vegas. Wickenburg has a little bit of charm to it for sure. Now, Kingman, we'll just leave that one on the side.
I love the idea of you being at like a saloon and this guy with like spurs on his boots and chaps on his jeans sits down next to you and goes, What are you doing here, city slicker? What are you doing here, boy? You know what I mean?
This is where you got it all wrong, Kevin.
You're showing up.
In fact, do that to everybody else. That's how you set, who the alpha in the saloon is. The dude who walks in and holding his belt, walking in, and I'm immediately like, I'm like, who are you? Like in my saloon of all people. Yeah, no, totally. You gotta act like you've been there before.
That's what Tommy Lloyd's finna do this year.
But yeah, Max, the Phoenix to Vegas drive is it's one of the worst drives in the entire country. Full stop. It's bad.
From St. Louis to Arizona would like to hold my beer because there's a portion of that drive.
That's so far, Kevin. You just picked half the damn country in terms of distance where no people live.
So if I shrink it to say just the state of Oklahoma,
like I'm talking one state to one state.
Then I'm talking Missouri to Oklahoma because that drive is horrific. Like when I did the drive for like to and from college, right? I would do that drive a couple times. Going from Oklahoma, there are spots where if you get, I know this is the case across the country and other places as well, but I think it was extra bad for me in that personal case, there are spots where you need gas and you're hopeless. I'm talking like 80 miles to the next gas station and you're riding on 20 left.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
If we're truly doing this, then I got one for you too that's pretty bad. Obviously, when I say it's the worst thing ever, that's just classic Damonisms. That's how I talk. Everybody that watches this program daily probably knows that by now. But and I know Kobe is here in the chat, and Max just said it.
So real.
West Texas is the worst thing that's ever existed on planet Earth.
That's my number 2 ranking.
When you're driving, and I did this drive, and this is why I said I know Kobe's gonna feel this. I've driven from Tucson to San Antonio for the Alamo Bowl, and it is unequivocally the most boring thing you will ever do in your entire life. You are driving into nothing. Pigeon did the same, it sounds like.
Into the abyss.
Yeah, dude. You're driving into nothing. Tumbleweeds. Legitimate tumbleweeds. You're on the highway and you're like, oh, look, that's a tumbleweed. Like, that must be what they're talking about.
I'm just thinking about that song, do with the whistle, with the classic Western. That's what every time I see a tumbleweed, I think of.
20 times? Kobe, that is almost unacceptable. 20 times is almost unacceptable.
It's one of those things where, like,
eventually you gotta fly.
You're on your deathbed and you're thinking about like ways in which you could have better utilized your hours on the earth.
100%.
And then you realize, like, I spent 30 days of my life traveling from San Antonio to Tucson.
I was just about to say 20 plus drives from San Antonio to Tucson back and forth, Kevin. That legitimately is like you wasted. You will look back and be like, man, I wasted days. Days of this great thing we call life. I could have been doing things I loved, and instead I was in West Texas, driving in the dirt. Oh, brutal.
Well, that was your daily travel report from the AZ Wildcats podcast. We do want to talk a little bit about a hoop, and I do want to start with the schedule.
Does. I just want to mope about football.
With the schedule that just released. Arizona released their full schedule today. Now, I do want to key in on one specific month, Damon, because, and this is on me, I should have grabbed it during the course of the show, but when they dropped it, I looked at February, Damon, and that might be the hardest month of any team across the board in the country.
Yeah.
February 7th, Oklahoma State. And you hear that and you think, Oklahoma State's not very good. Well, they do have Steve Lutz. They're well coached, and they are improved over last season. And I think if you remember back to last season, Oklahoma State was one of those teams where when you're playing them, they're going to rebound hard, they're going to play really tough, and they're going to punch above their belt. So Oklahoma State will be one of the bottom teams in this conference, likely in my opinion. And by that, I mean like in the bottom half, right? But that is not like just some cakewalk kind of a game. It should be for a team like Arizona, but that's still a challenging opponent. February 9th, KU. February 14th, Texas Tech. February 18th, BYU. The 21st, you play Houston. The 24th, you play Baylor. And then, just rounding out the month with KU again on February 27th. That is an absolute murderer's row. And if you want to expand it into March, you got Iowa State on March 2nd. Colorado after that.
So just do it all kind of in succession for me real quick. Just say it kind of fast.
So from February to March, Oklahoma State, Kansas, Texas Tech, BYU, Houston, Baylor, Kansas, Iowa State, Colorado, Big 12 championship tournament.
Crazy, man. That is insane. you probably get, I mean, it's almost reminiscent of like the BYU football schedule right now, the ASU football schedule right now. Like you're getting like almost the murderer's row of all of the teams that you need to beat to potentially win this thing, all in the same time period, which like, I don't know if that makes it better or worse, Kevin. I mean, I think you can make the argument that if Arizona's playing good basketball at that time, if they're rolling, then, that's, you almost, want that momentum to like capitalize, right? Like you win a couple big games and then you feel better going into the next one, but it also has a very high variance, right? Like it ultimately could potentially be just the opposite, where
Correct.
all those teams beat you and you go 1-4 in a certain stretch, and things are a disaster, and Arizona fans are talking about firing Tommy Lloyd again, like after last non-conference. So
people get in our comments on our football shows and they say wanting to fire the Brent Brennan of the world is insane. It's unbelievable. And yet we have people in our own fan base.
Brent Brennan's going to build a dynasty if we give him time in Tucson. Real comment, by the way, folks.
And then you have people on the basketball side that when Tommy Lloyd doesn't win a national championship in his first half decade at the program are like, is he even a good coach, guys? Are we sure that the gold medalist, one of the most winningest coaches in his first half decade, is even a good coach, guys? Should we fire him? Can we go get like a Dusty May so that we can be an overrated preseason team like Michigan? Can we go get a Mick Cronin so that we can have a Napoleon syndrome kind of guy going on screaming at media? Or do we want Tommy Lloyd? Anyway, I regress. I will say, February, though, that is an absolute murderer's row. Roberto in the comment section says, we have the toughest schedule in the country by a mile. And I actually would tend to agree with you on that. You have defending champion Florida November 3rd. You have an exhibition against St. Mary's. That is an underrated tough game. St. Mary's is a pretty decent team out there in the upper,
Always.
Yeah. St. Mary's is in California, right?
It's in the Bay Area, yeah.
Bay Area. But yeah, St. Mary's on an exhibition game, that is not easy. Then you go into the national championship game, not the national championship game, but the national champions in Florida. You also have NAU, UCLA, UConn, Auburn, Alabama in that stretch. So I do think that the tail end, like from November to December, will give us a very good indication of what Arizona can do in February. And I think when we look back on last season, if I'm remembering this correctly, Damon, correct me if I'm wrong,
mm-hmm.
You and I were going into that second Kansas game because I think you ended the season last year on Kansas, and then you played them again in the Big 12 tournament right thereafter, if I'm correct on that.
One more time?
Didn't Arizona play Kansas in like one of the last two games of the season?
Yeah,
and then
they
you
played them on
Kansas
senior night.
Yeah, and then you played Kansas immediately in the Big 12 tournament as well.
Correct, yeah.
I think February is huge for Arizona, and that goes without saying. But I think it's huge almost regardless of the win-loss, unless you lose every single one of those games, because you're getting cracks at these teams that are going to be in the Big 12 tournament and try to win the whole thing very close to it. So you're going to have an idea of how you match up against KU because you play them 3 games before the tournament starts. You're going to have an idea against how you match up against Texas Tech because you play them in February too. BYU, same thing. So I don't think it's a situation where, I guess I'm saying I'd rather have the tough teams at the end of the season when you know what you have and you're going to know what they have in the conference tournament because you just played them, as opposed to getting this in January where teams are going to be completely different by the time you play them in March. So I actually think this benefits Arizona to get this done so close to the conference tournament because I think it's going to have them very well prepared and very well scouted as well.
Yeah, it's almost the idea of what we've been talking about, Kevin, with just the move to the Big 12 in general is, you get that aspect of playing these, elite level competition consistently, right? And so that in theory should, lift all tides, right? Like, so that being said, I think that exact concept applies to the recency in terms of when you're playing these teams, right? So you're playing these conference games, they're really tough, and you immediately lead into postseason play. And yeah, I think if Arizona is playing good basketball at that time, things have not fallen off completely because of this gauntlet schedule, I think, if you can sustain winning basketball, even with a couple losses in that time period, you're obviously like, I think it goes a long way in terms of preparing you for like true tournament style games, because that's really when teams are going to be turning it up and playing especially those teams at that portion of the season, the Big 12 could be on the line potentially. maybe it does. Maybe we're wrong, but I don't expect necessarily like a Houston-style runaway of the Big 12 conference this year. I expect it to be definitely a lot closer in terms of Houston, Arizona, BYU, Texas Tech, all those teams vying for a potential championship, whereas Houston kind of had that in the bag from, I don't know, about 5 games into Big 12 play last year, it felt like. So,
well, we know Houston's going to be bad this year because they have Chris Sinak Jr., who's a freshman. And we all know you can't rely on a high-level freshman.
Number 2 team
unless
in the
you're
country.
Duke. Unless you're Duke. You can't rely on any freshman. Milos Uzan, be damned. Emmanuel Sharp's experience, be damned. They got Chris Sinak.
Top 10 recruit Chris Sinak. You can't trust him. I actually, I understand the point you're making, but I honestly think it almost goes to show that it's not even a non-Duke problem. It's an Arizona problem.
Yeah.
Houston is number 2.
Yeah.
They're not being disrespected because they have Chris Sinak Jr. and they are investing a ton of their entire season into how good he plays. Like they are number 2 no matter what. So that like it feels like it's an Arizona thing. Like we're the only team that's not allowed to rely on freshmen, or else that's going to drastically impact how we're seen. But Kevin, I do believe you have a graphic that shows kind of the levels to Arizona's schedule. And, we're talking about toughest schedule in the country. This is definitely one of them. You can see that block A, that beautiful crisp logo, just kind of crawling out of that Duke logo, out of that Florida logo here. But when they're saying, when they're Evan Maya, or this isn't Evan Maya.
No, this is JD Trends. I do have a Maya graphic coming up.
Got you.
Yeah.
This is, they're showing which team has the best schedule in the hardest schedule in the country. Obviously, with the upper right quadrant being the hardest schedules, it's tough for me to like look at this and be like, yeah, Kevin, facts.
Yeah. Memphis being in there is like,
Memphis
what is the Polar Bear doing in Arlington, Texas?
St. John's is crazy. They play in the Big East, bro.
Yeah, and I think like when you talk about teams like Arizona and is their schedule actually the toughest in the country, like I think you have to look at that y-axis, right? The average toughest 25% of the schedule, right? So which quarter of your schedule is the toughest? We're going to take that and we're going to add it to this equation, and we're going to add it to the average total schedule rank. I think that the Big 12 is being disrespected in this sense, Damon. We know it's probably the best conference in America, quite frankly, from a basketball perspective. However, pundits and even the numbers, as we look at this Evan Maya list here of the conferences ranked by strength number, which is a combination of their offensive and defensive strength there. As you see, the Big 12 is 3rd. I disagree with that. I don't disagree with it by a huge margin, right? I don't think they're like...
I disagree with the Big 10 by a huge margin. SEC, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that when you're talking about the Big 12 being underrated, I think this is kind of what you're getting at, right? Mm-hmm. Not only is it, you're getting it from both ends, so to speak, right? The pundits are in the gas bags. They're talking about how light the Big 12 is. They're talking about how heavy the SEC is, right? And then the numbers back it up, right? So you're kind of getting that from both ends. I think in reality, if we look back at the schedule graphic, Arizona should be in that upper right quadrant where you combine scheduling big games with scheduling tough top to bottom. If having the national champions regular season game 1 and having the February that Arizona does on their schedule is not scheduling tough top to bottom, I truly don't know how we're defining top to bottom, because the top of Arizona's schedule is brutal. The bottom of Arizona's schedule is brutal. The middle, you're in the Big 12. So I understand that maybe you're like, well, they play ASU twice. They play Utah. Utah's no good. UCF's no good. It's still the Big 12. I really do feel like Arizona should be in that upper right quadrant, but this does kind of go to show, regardless of how we feel about Arizona's exact placement on that graph, this is one of the best schedules in America, and we should be ecstatic to get the chance to watch this kind of a schedule for Arizona basketball. As AZ Cat Dan says, it's basketball season, BTFD. So yeah, basketball season is here. We have a schedule, and I'm ready to watch it.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And I think when I look at that one with Alabama and Memphis up in the upper right quadrant, Kevin, I think it does go to show that there's a lack of respect for the Big 12 on that graphic in particular, because it's inarguable that Arizona's non-conference, I think, is the hardest in the country at this point. We play everybody. Like everybody. Like there's, Arizona plays like something like 9 top 25 teams or whatever. And Kevin, I pulled up Alabama's schedule because as you said, like before the show, like if you look at that, you would think to yourself, Alabama's playing the hardest schedule in the history of college basketball. I don't see how their schedule is even really particularly close to our schedule, Kevin, unless you just think the entire SEC is just levels on the Big 12. I mean, this is their non-conference. Are you ready?
Ready.
Florida State,
Tough.
Furman, North Dakota. Then they play St. John's, Purdue.
That's tough. That's brutal.
That's tough. Then you play Illinois, which is a tough one.
Tough one, too.
Then Gonzaga. Tough.
That's a really, I think, honestly.
Really tough 4-game stretch.
And when you look at that graphic again, that is like that y-axis. Because they are by far the highest on the y-axis of the toughest quarter of the schedule, right?
But Arizona plays just as good as teams as that.
They do, but I think I don't know. I can see what they're getting at with that like little 4 or 5 game stretch, but the overall Arizona has a tougher one.
You got to listen to the rest. Clemson, UTSA, Arizona, South Florida, Kennesaw State, Yale.
So another team that is being ranked higher in a stat that in Arizona, even though Arizona is a part of the reason why they're so highly ranked.
Yes, exactly. I mean, like obviously Arizona, Gonzaga, Illinois, Purdue, St. John's are all really good teams. Like that is 5 games of gauntlet right there, right? But if you look at Arizona's, I mean, it's Florida, UCLA, UConn, Auburn, Alabama. Then you still have San Diego State. I mean, you got to mix. I guess you mix in some of these kind of lesser teams as well. But yeah, I mean, I guess they're fairly comparable when you truly look at it.
Can I bring you a stat that kind of takes it from comparable to a little less comparable in favor of Arizona for having the tougher schedule? I saw a stat, and I'm getting this from T3 Bracketology on Twitter, who posted that there are 14 schools, 3.8% of college basketball teams have achieved the following 2 statistics, Damon. A top 60 defensive rating in each of the last 3 seasons, and allowed less than 70 points per game in each of the last 3 seasons. So these 14 teams, by these numbers, are the best defensive schools over a 3-year period. Houston, Tennessee, Duke, St. Mary's, Iowa State, San Diego State, Cincinnati, VCU, Auburn, North Texas, UCLA, Maryland, Michigan State. What did you notice about half of those teams? Arizona opponents? Maybe they should have the toughest schedule in the league or in the nation on paper. They're playing some of the tough, like if you are going to schedule the toughest possible schedule you can as a head coach, it looks a lot like what Arizona has right now in the Big 12. You're playing the defending national champions, some of the top programs in the country, and they're not just fraudulent programs. They're programs that have been doing it for years at this point. This is not like catching Loyola Chicago after their miracle run and having that add to your strength of schedule. No, these are established programs with established recruitment lines, with established success in their history, and Arizona is going to try to take them all down this year. I think that they have to get the nod in that Alabama-Arizona discussion when you consider like the actual success and the actual pedigree of the teams that Arizona is going up against.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Also, got to look at Memphis because of where they are on the chart, so I had to look up their non-con. They go Arkansas, Auburn, San Francisco, Ole Miss, UNLV, Purdue, Texas Tech or Wake Forest, Southern Illinois, New Orleans, Baylor, Louisville, Vanderbilt, Mississippi State, Alabama State.
That's really tough.
It is really tough, but my larger point is, and I think that, that's obviously an insanely tough non-con schedule, but we're looking at their schedule as a whole, and it's better than Arizona's. There's a 0% chance, Kevin. They play North Texas and USF in their conference. Like those are the type of teams that are in the American, whereas Arizona's playing against the like, it's funny to me, as you say, Memphis is ranked higher than Arizona because they have like a team like Texas Tech on their non-conference schedule when Arizona has Texas Tech on their conference schedule. And you're like, okay, but we also play non-con games that are every bit as high profile as a Texas Tech. Can you put that chart up one more time? I want to see Villanova's placement on here.
I was looking that up for our guy Sam Alberts while you were explaining that. Villanova is ranked in the upper right, so the top of the top.
Are they beneath Gonzaga?
They're under Gonzaga, under Auburn, under St. John's. Do you know what their non-con is, Damon?
That's insane.
I'm gonna read off their non-con to you right now. Virginia on the road, BYU, which is a very tough team. Virginia is also tough too. Queen's University of Charlotte, Sacred Heart University, Duquesne, LaSalle, Old Dominion, Temple, and then the Big Five Classic. And now we're entering into conference play territory here a little bit, I believe. But
I mean, you got Pitt, Michigan, Wisconsin, and then it's conference play.
Yeah.
And
but we're talking about Queen's University of Charlotte.
Can I throw a wrench in there as well? That Virginia game's an exhibition game. That doesn't count. That doesn't even count towards.
You're right.
I did miss their schedule. So that's pretty nuts. I mean, they have some decent teams on there, but the Big East is not good, bro.
Queen's University of Charlotte, Damon. I've never heard of it.
They got some dogs. I would be lying if I said I haven't bet on them before, because I am in fact a college basketball betting psychopath.
I think you got to call the hotline if you place a bet on Queen's University of Charlotte. And
that's your mistake.
That's like betting on Chinese ping pong, brother.
The money is to be won in the smaller conferences in college basketball.
I agree.
Every true gambler knows this.
I do agree.
And if you stop digging, the diamonds are right behind the other side of that wall. It's like you just got to keep digging.
It's like the Carolina Panthers podcast that quit because they lost too many games, and now the Panthers are undefeated.
Nice. Yeah. Now they're nice. We might have to bring Meow Mix back.
Yeah.
To the streets. The people have been calling for it, but Kevin, the people are calling for an Arizona win on Saturday against Houston. Need it, absolutely need it, and of course we will be previewing that game the entire rest of the week. We're going to bring Justin Spears on later in the week on Thursday or Friday to preview the game. Then, of course, we'll do pregame 30 minutes prior to kickoff, which, of course, this week is at 8:30 a.m. And let me tell you, folks, if you're not tuned into that one, you're going to be missing. Kevin and I are going to rip a tequila shot. Like, I'm telling you, I've already decided this. The second the show starts, like, we might do it on the cold open. We might be like, good morning, Arizona. Shoot it, and then just go straight into the countdown, because that's the type of vibe we're on Saturday. Be there with us for the pregame, of course. Be there with us for the postgame, as well as we either commiserate with each other or we celebrate. It depends on the vibe, but either way that Kevin and I are going to be live, and we're going to be feeling whatever you guys are feeling. So hang out with us all the rest of the week. We'll be live Thursday, Friday, pregame and postgame. Of course, 2 p.m. our regularly scheduled showtime. Deborah Owens on the way out saying 1-800-GOT-COOKIES.
Hey, that's how you know it's easy to make fun of your head coach when someone as kind as Deborah Owens is getting in on the bit. That's how you know. That's how you know. If you're getting jokes from Deborah Owens, you got to fix something. Because Deborah's not making fun of just anybody. You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
Speaking of chat, shout out to everybody in the chat.
That's nasty, Pigeon. That's nasty. And you didn't need to do that to us. I'm happy that all of a sudden you don't have to deal with the 9 p.m. kickoff game. I can sit there and I can say, yeah, Pigeon, I'm you know what? I'm happy for you as a friend. As my favorite bird in the world. I can say, hey, I'm happy that you don't have to wake up or you don't have to go to bed super late for this game. But for you to put that in front of mine and Kevin's face when we have to get to the office at like 7:30 a.m. on Saturday, time. I mean that it just feels nasty. It feels like bullying, truly.
Yeah, I didn't think a pigeon. I was today years old when I realized I could get bullied by a pigeon.
My favorite part about Max is when me, Kevin, and Max are always on the exact same wavelength with a joke.
Yeah,
he is always sending in Max. I will tell you, like on our end, there's a slight delay for the comments to come through on our screen. So by the time that you say these jokes and you type it in there and press enter, like in our mind, we've already got them out there. And then just rolling across the screen, here's Max talking about Azerbaijan time, as Kevin said it 5 seconds ago. It's insane. It's like we're all three of us are just sitting right here staring into the screens at each other.
It's the Spider-Man meme.
Absolutely. And as As Kobe says, let's ride. As AZ Cat Stan says, cheers. We're going to drink it up. We're going to live it up on Saturday. Be there with us, of course, and be there with us the rest of the week. We won't be live tomorrow, Wednesday, regularly scheduled off day, and of course, live the rest of the week. So follow my guy Kevin at Kevo Post. Follow me at Damon Dog at CWG, and follow us at AZ or PHNX_Wildcats on all social media, except for TikTok, where we're at AZ Wildcats Pod. Rate and review on your favorite podcasting platform. Helps us out there. Even if you're a YouTube watcher, go on over there, subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform, and then just forget about it. Don't even, it doesn't even matter at that point if you're a YouTube person. If you're an audio person, we cherish you. We thank you so much. Thank you for doing so. Do the opposite. Go to YouTube, press the video, like it, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and then forget you even did so. Help us out on all these platforms. Help us out so much. And of course, like this video. That's going to do it for me and Kevin for today. We'll be back, like I said, on a Thursday at 2 p.m. Make sure that you guys are there for that. And until next time, peace out, bear down.
And go Cats. Let's get this W on Saturday so we can stop spiraling into doomsday.
We all silly like the mayor.